Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some battles from page 1 on the leaderboard, the top 50 ranked battlers in the world, featuring Gholdengo. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Jocko Loco, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now for the team, Jocko is running a little bit of spice. He has a level 50 Chestnut on the lead with Gholdengo in the back, and as his save switch, he is running a Dragon Breath Gyarados. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at some battles at upper 3200s and lower 3300s elo. Hopping into the first match, picking up a terrific lead Chestnut into Waterfall Gyarados, and the opponent is not switching out, which is a very good sign, as that is a pretty good tell that they're going to be very weak to Chestnut somewhere in the back. Opponent has built up to a potential outrage, but they're not running it, they only have Crunch. They're going to send in Metagross, and Metagross will be answered with Gholdengo. Gholdengo able to hit for super effective damage with both the Hex and the Shadow Ball. The Shadow Ball is going to be shielded by the opponent. Meteor Mash would not KO. They have to full send the Earthquake, successfully calling the bait, and that puts the opponent in a very difficult position. Gholdengo going to shield up the second Meteor Mash, and Gholdengo will be able to overfarm here quite a bit. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We see a bit of a tricky lead in the next match, Chestnut versus Hisui and Avalugg. Avalugg, of course, can hit for super effective damage. Chestnut has an ability for super or double super effective damage with its charge attacks. We are going to see Chestnut tank the Icy Wind and fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant is going to be shielded. Chestnut will be able to outpace and make the superpower. And at -1, this is going to do a massive amount of damage still. Opponent is barely going to survive that, and they choose to fire off their Icy Wind. So Chestnut being able to basically get a KO, and on top of that, force a shield as well. And now Gholdengo gets a very nice farm down. Opponent sends in a Dragon Breath Gyarados, and that is not a strong counter to Gholdengo whatsoever. Firing off the Shadow Ball is going to connect, and Gholdengo with his energy and shield advantage is looking very deadly in this endgame. Opponent will go for the Aqua Tail. Gholdengo just going for the Shadow Ball, looking to remove Gyarados from the field of play. Gyarados is going to commit the shield. Looks like whatever they have in back is not a massive fan of Gholdengo. The switch into the Gyarados, and in the back there is Florges. Florges will do quite well into the Dragon Breath Gyarados, but Gholdengo, again, looks to be very problematic for the opponent in this endgame. Gyarados just going to try and get as much chip damage as it can before it will eventually get knocked out by the Florges. Gyarados is going to commit the shield as Florges fires off the Moonblast. Thankfully, no 10% chance debuff applies. Gyarados going to be hit with charge attack number 2. It's another Moonblast, but it still will not be able to get the KO. Gyarados firing off the Aqua Tail. Switch timer will be up soon. In comes Gholdengo. Opponent sends in the Gyarados, but no move from Gyarados will KO here. They can go for the Crunch. Gholdengo does not care. Gholdengo able to get the farm down to the Gyarados and leave with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball knocks out the 1 HP Florges and takes the win. Florges back for revenge in the next match, as this time it's on the lead. We're going to see a save switch into the Dragon Breath Gyarados. Opponent actually switches out of that matchup, and they choose to send in Shadow Snorlax. This is quite nice, as if the opponent stayed in with the Florges, it's very uncomfortable for the Dragon Breath Gyarados, but they send in the Snorlax, and this is a matchup where Gyarados is quite a bit of play. Gyarados firing off the back-to-back Aqua Tails, putting pressure onto the Snorlax. Snorlax is going to commit the shield. Gyarados will be hit with the charge attack, and now this is a very nice opportunity to get a bunch of energy on the Chestnut, as Chestnut potentially can Vine Whip down, leave with a ton of Frenzy Plants, and even though Chestnut, not a big fan of Florges, the Frenzy Plants are still going to add up. So Chestnut is going to commit to the farm down. Oh, the Shadow Snorlax barely able to hang on, making one final body slam, and that gets Chestnut extremely low. Chestnut exiting with a ton of energy, but unfortunately, almost no HP remaining. Chestnut going to launch the back-to-back Frenzy Plants, and then it's time for Gholdengo. Gholdengo up a shield in the endgame. What do they have in the bag? They have a Hippowdon. Hippowdon is actually a Pokemon that I myself tried for the Master Premier Cup. I built it all the way up to level 50, and honestly, I left feeling extremely unimpressed with it. It just does not do the kind of damage that you would want it to do. Like, I was going up against the Golisopod, and the Weather Ball didn't even do half. I was up a shield and I wasn't able to flip it, so I was just really unimpressed, to be honest. The one good thing for the opponents about on in this matchup is the sand attacks are adding up quite a bit over time. Gholdengo is going to make the Shadow Ball. This will be able to pick up the knockout, but the question is, the sand attacks, I believe, have done enough damage that Florges can actually win this game. Trying for the catch onto the Chestnut, it's unsuccessful, and now Gholdengo, can it hang on? The Florges is so low. They go for the Disarming Voice, and they have Disarming Voice number 2. Very close endgame. The opponent with fractions of HP on the Florges, able to take the win. Great lead in the next match, leading Chestnut into Magnezone. We're going to see a counter switch into a Shundo Gyarados, and that's going to be matched with the Hundo non-shiny. Crunch will connect. We do not see the debuff. Firing off a Crunch of his own, looking to apply some pressure to the opponent. The opponent is going to let that through. Neither Pokemon got a debuff. Opponent will have this slight energy advantage, so they will be able to make the Aqua Tail. The Aqua Tail is going to be no-shielded. Gyarados barely not able to get to the Aqua Tail. In comes Gholdengo. Gholdengo going to try for an aggressive Hex down and gets the farm down. In comes the Shadow Magnezone, but Shadow Magnezone is going to take a lot of damage here from the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball to the Magnezone, does get shielded. Gholdengo continuing to farm. Gholdengo makes another Shadow Ball, and the opponent, are they really willing to give up both shields here? The Shadow Ball does get shielded. Gholdengo gets the Hex through as they fire off energy. We see the shield. Magnezone going for a bait. Magnezone, oh, the double shield from Gholdengo. Is this finally the wild charge? It is going to be the wild charge. Gholdengo able to make the Shadow Ball. Nice overfarm, and this is going to be goodbye to the Magnezone. What is that final Pokemon in the back? It's Annihilape. Annihilape, we see an attempted catch, trying to catch a potential Night Slash, but the opponent does not throw it. Frenzy Plant is going to do some solid damage to the Annihilape. Annihilape firing off its energy. What are they running as their charge attack? It's the Shadow Ball. The Shadow Ball connects. Annihilape will have to throw, or the Frenzy Plant will be reached, so they're forced to fire off energy. They go for the Night Slash. It will pick up the KO, and it's Gholdengo, so close to a move, and gets there. Shadow Ball KOs Annihilape, and takes the win. We've got a battle of super effective damage in the next match. Chestnut versus Mamoswine. Chestnut just going to go straight for the superpower and dip. This will guarantee a shield from the Mamoswine, and then you can send in the Gyarados. In comes the Gyarados. Gyarados to be met with the loaded Avalanche, and we see an immediate no shield from the Gyarados. Opponent now going to send in their own Gyarados, and the opponent, as long as they don't get Crunch debuffed, should be able to tank this move and fully commit to a farm down. The Crunch will connect. We do not see the debuff. Gyarados is going to get close to the Aqua Tail, but it will not get there. The opponent exits with quite a bit of energy, but the good news is that the standard Gyarados charge attack moveset is walled by Chestnut. It's Aqua Tail and Crunch, and both are resisted. Opponent goes for the Crunch. They do get the debuff from the Crunch. That is a bit unfortunate, as Chestnut now going to be taking more damage than it typically would. We see a banking of the move and the switch into Gholdengo. Gholdengo committing the shield, as we do see Gyarados fire off the Aqua Tail. Gholdengo gets the farm down. We know about the Mamoswine. What is that final Pokemon lurking in the back? In comes the Mamoswine. Mamoswine to be met with the Shadow Ball right before they make the Avalanche. Shadow Ball is going to be shielded up by the Mamoswine. Mamoswine firing off energy. We do see the shield from the Gholdengo. Opponent is just going to go for the Avalanche bait. Gholdengo trying to get to the Shadow Ball, unable to get there, as the opponent is going to fire off another Avalanche. This is not enough for the high horsepower, so Gholdengo able to withstand the damage. Gholdengo farming up to 100 energy, trying to exit as close to a move as possible for whatever's in the back. In the back, it's a Togekiss. Oh no! Disaster strikes. The Shadow Ball plus the Frenzy Plant combination can KO a lot of things, but it cannot KO a Togekiss, and Togekiss will take the win. The Fairy types are back in the next match, leading Chestnut into Florges. The safe switch into the Dragon Breath Gyarados. This Florges is going to stay in and get some chip damage with the Disarming Voice before switching out. Disarming Voice will connect. In comes the Snorlax. Baiting out the Snorlax is good for Gholdengo in the back, but Gholdengo is going to have to do a lot of work in this endgame. With the damage already done by Disarming Voice, unfortunately the Gyarados has no way of flipping the Snorlax matchup. where Snorlax is going to be able to massively overfarm and then fire off a Body Slam just before Aqua Tail number 3 is reached. Body Slam will pick up the KO. Back in comes the Chestnut. Chestnut looking to use this as an opportunity to get some energy advantage, because getting some damage onto the Florges would be quite nice. But Snorlax firing off these non-stop Body Slams, getting some very big damage onto the Chestnut. Chestnut will go for the Frenzy Plant, and then with Snorlax out of the way, all hope now rests on Gholdengo. In comes the Florges. Florges will be met with the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant is going to do some pretty nice damage to the Florges, putting them below half HP. Chestnut staying in. The Florges throws energy right away, and that's perfect. And now it's all up to Gholdengo. In comes Gholdengo, the opponent not switching out, which hopefully is a good sign for Gholdengo. Gholdengo is going to commit the shield, as the opponent is going to fire off the Moonblast. Still unknown what that final Pokemon is going to be. Gholdengo farming up just shy of 100 energy and going for the Shadow Ball. The Shadow Ball will pick up the KO. In the back, it's a Machamp of all things. Machamp, honestly, I don't think I've seen one in Master Premier yet, just due to the fact that Annihilape is absolutely everywhere, and there's not really anything that Machamp can throw into an Annihilape. However, a potential payback could be devastating if it lands. We'll have to see. Gholdengo calls the bait, and it's the resisted cross chop. That is a massive call. Gholdengo now in a position where I still don't think a cross chop will quite KO. He's going to call it again. It's the cross chop. It doesn't KO the Machamp, running Rock Slide instead of payback, and Gholdengo down a shield, able to get rid of Machamp and take the win. Nightmare lead in the next match, going up against Rise to the occasion, leading Chestnut into Chandelure. The safe switch into the Dragon Breath Gyarados is going to be met with a Togekiss. Togekiss, of course, double resisting the Dragon Breaths. But the good news of something like Dragon Breath compared to Dragon Tail in this situation is every fast move has to do at least 1 damage. So compared to a double resisted Dragon Tail, you're going to get way more value out of Dragon Breath. And Rise is actually forced to throw energy, as Gyarados could have made a third Aqua Tail. He's running Aerial Ace on the Togekiss, which is very interesting. Typically, you see like an Ancient Power plus Aura Sphere set, so Aerial Ace does give the Togekiss a cheaper move to get to, and because of the Aerial Ace, he's actually able to get 2 moves here. So the Aerial Ace will connect onto Gholdengo. Opponent has Gyarados in the back, and this is looking like an extremely difficult game to win, because there's still the 2-shield Chandelure lurking in the back. Gholdengo farming up. We are going to see the shield from Gholdengo. Gholdengo's going to need a lot of energy to try and win this game. This is going to be a very tough matchup. Gholdengo firing off the Shadow Ball. At this point, I think the opponent just saves 2 shields for Chandelure, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And now we're going to see the switch into the Chestnut. Chestnut already being met with the Flame Charge. We are going to see the shield, but unfortunately, with 2 shields to hide behind, this is just a completely 1 game for the Chandelure, as Chandelure can just fully farm down and then exit with a move to KO Gholdengo. Gholdengo has the Shadow Ball, but unfortunately it's not going to matter. The Chandelure too scary in that endgame, as Rise is able to take the win. The tough leads continue for Chestnut as it leads once again into Florges. The Gyarados save switch will be answered with a Best Buddy Snorlax, and that Best Buddy boost does help out Snorlax quite a bit in this matchup. Snorlax doing 1 extra damage per lick, and that really adds up so much when you have a 1-turn move. Gyarados is going to try and do what it can, though. Basically try and soft lose this matchup, and then look for farm on the Chestnut. Body Slam fired off. Unfortunately, Gyarados, it has a lot of energy, but I don't think it's making 2 Aqua Tails here. The Gyarados makes Aqua Tail number 1, but the lick damage from the Best Buddy Snorlax proves to be too much. In comes the Chestnut. Chestnut just going to convert HP into energy here. More than happy to absorb charge attacks from the Snorlax, who goes for the Outrage instead of going for 2 Body Slams. Back in comes the Florges. We know 2 Frenzy Plants should put the Florges into the red health, and that sets up a potential Hex farm down for Gholdengo. Oh my goodness, they actually shield a Frenzy Plant. Shielding a Frenzy Plant, giving a shield advantage to Gholdengo. In comes Gholdengo, and Gholdengo now has a choice to make. They're probably firing off the Moonblast here. Do you elect to shield? Letting it through the Moonblast is going to connect. Gholdengo going to be hit with another charge attack from the Florges. Florges probably just going for Disarming Voice at this point. We are going to see the shield on that, and Gholdengo is going to farm up just shy of 100 energy and fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will pick up the KO. What do they have in the back? Oh no, it's Annihilape, and Annihilape down this much energy is in a very difficult position. The Shadow Ball does get shielded. Annihilate farming up so much energy, but they don't have back-to-back Night Slashes here. They full send the Shadow Ball, so they're running Ice Punch. They're not running Night Slash. And now Gholdengo gets its revenge, picking up the KO onto Annihilate and taking the win. Hopping into the final match, great lead, Chestnut into Shadow Magnezone. Opponent save switches into Annihilate, which will be answered with the Gyarados. Gyarados does do quite well here. With a small energy head start, Annihilate can put in some pretty solid work though. The Shadow Ball is going to connect, and now Gyarados overfarms and fires off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will not KO. This is survivable, so we are going to see a no shield by the Annihilate, but the Annihilate loses charge attack priority to the Gyarados. Aqua Tail is going to be shielded, and now a choice to be made. Oh, choosing to let this go as the opponent fires off the Night Slash, as this is going to set up massive energy for Gholdengo. And now the Magnezone really has nowhere to run. You can shield up the Gholdengo. Gholdengo is going to leave with a Shadow Ball loaded. And this Magnezone is in a very tough spot. It is the Shadow Magnezone as well. Oh my goodness, no baits here. Going straight for the Focus Blast. Focus Blast picks up the one-hit KO. It's Feraligatr in the back. And this game is over. The opponent was so weak to Chestnut. And now you can just send in the Chestnut. And even if they have Ice Beam, it's not going to matter. It's not going to KO. Opponent goes for the Ice Beam. Chestnut does not care. Chestnut gets the Vine Whip down and secures the win. All in all, making it to 3,300 ELO is a massive accomplishment. So big congratulations to Jocko Loco. And Gholdengo definitely got to be one of my favorite Pokemon designs ever. One thing that I do hope for the future is that potentially Gholdengo can get a slightly cheaper charge attack, because Shadow Ball and Focus Blast are both amazing moves. It guarantees that no matter what you throw with Gholdengo, you're going to be doing quite a lot of damage. But it would be really nice from a pacing perspective to have a slightly cheaper move on Gholdengo. I know it does have a signature move in the main series, Make It Rain, so maybe that can be introduced at some point in the future as something a little bit cheaper, because Gholdengo, its defensive typing, being a steel ghost type, is absolutely incredible, just with slightly better pacing, and this thing would be absolutely unstoppable. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.